Are you ready to go house hunting? Welcome to part 2 of the First Time Homebuyer Guide series. We are diving into part 2, which is going to be finding the house for you. If this is the first video that you are watching of the Homebuyer Guide series, I would strongly recommend watching part 1, which is where to start for the First Time Homebuyer Guide series before you jump into this video. If you've already watched part 1, then let's get into it. Hi, my name is Nicole Moore with Real Broker. I am your Savannah Realtor bestie. I am in the process of creating a first-time homebuyer guide series in video format. In the very last video, there will be an actual downloadable guide that you can download, but you're gonna have to stick with me through the whole entire series to be able to get access to that. You have already found your lender and found the real estate agent that you're working with. Now we're in the process of figuring out the houses that you want to go see and which one you want to make an offer on. When it comes to house hunting, every single real estate agent runs their business differently. So the way that they show houses and the way that they schedule things might be differently from another agent. I'm going to take you through my process and what it looks like. So make sure that when you're working with your real estate agent, don't compare apples to apples for how I do my scheduling. But this is just a basic understanding of what should be taking place in order to get to the final goal of purchasing a house. The very first thing with house hunting is that we've gotten a very good understanding of what your budget is, which means that even if you're pre-approved for $475,000, if you only feel comfortable with what your payments look like at $400,000, then that's what we're going to be looking at is $400,000 homes. If you're not finding anything in the range that you feel comfortable with, you can potentially move up as long as you have a good understanding of what those new payments would look like. So that is where it's really important that the lender that you're working with communicates and answers your questions, because if you want to know the difference between a $400,000 payment compared to a $450,000 payment, you want to make sure that you understand that before you go through the whole process of making an offer on a house, and then, towards the end figuring out that, wow, this is way over what I want to pay for my monthly mortgage payment, and you don't feel comfortable moving forward, and then it turns into a whole mess. So really make sure that you understand what your budget is and what you feel comfortable, and that you have an agent who respects your wishes and isn't pushing you to do something that you don't want to do. Normally, after we have that conversation about the budget and what you feel comfortable with, then we figure out what your needs are versus what your wants are. So your needs are the things that you have to have in the house to be able to purchase the house, to make it functional for you, that you're comfortable with the payments, the location, everything. The wants are the things that you would like to have, but it's not a deal breaker in order to move forward with a house. And sometimes you really have to make sure that your expectations are realistic with whatever budget you have, because sometimes you may have a lower budget, but you really, really like this specific house that's outside of your budget. And unfortunately, you just have to make sure that you are having realistic expectations of what you can afford and what your budget will get you wherever you're purchasing at. A needs list would include things like the minimum amount of bedrooms that you need, the minimum amount of bathrooms that you need, the total square footage that you would need. If you want a bigger lot size, what is the minimum that you're willing to go down to? Or are you willing to look at all options? Are you looking at houses with only garages? Or are you keeping your options open to look at houses with or without garages? Specific locations, 1 story, 1.5 story, 2 story, or are you keeping your options open? So those are the basic needs list that you should definitely have that prepared for your real estate agents so they can figure out what search criteria works best for you. The wants are going to be things like, I don't want carpet in the house. I want only a shower in the master bathroom. I want an electric water heater. So definitely make sure that you come up with a wants versus needs list. I think that's very important as a first-time home buyer, just so you can share that information with your real estate agent, and then they can go ahead and give you realistic expectations of what you can expect for whatever budget you have. I also want to talk about a misconception that I do see a lot of times with first-time home buyers, just because you've never experienced this before and you don't know what you don't know. I've had buyers where they have watched a lot of HGTV, and I think a lot of people love watching HGTV. I more so now as a real estate professional, I really don't watch it as much as I used to before, but they give a lot of unrealistic expectations of what to expect as a buyer. If you see those shows where The real estate agent picks the best 3 to 4 houses, and then they go look at these houses, and then the buyer selects one, and it's super simple and everything is just magical. That is definitely not how it works in the real estate world. Also, those shows give a false representation of the actual process, because I actually know agents that have been on those shows. They've already picked the house out, they've already went under contract, they've already closed on that house, so they own that house. They're just doing that for the show, where they show other houses and then they pick the one that's the winner, but it's already been the winner a long time ago. Those type of shows really don't show the true process of buying a house. What really happens normally is that once we know your budget, your search criteria, I normally set up a search in the MLS, because that system gives real-time updates when houses hit the market and when they become unavailable. And all third-party sites like Zillow, Realtor, Trulia, all of them, they all pull their data from the MLS. So when you're getting set up directly, you get real-time information. It's updated much quicker than the third-party sites. For example, I've had clients where they send me, they're still looking on Zillow even though I set them up on the MLS, and they send me something, they're like, why is this house not showing up on this system but it's showing up on here? And then it's because Zillow hasn't updated that it went under contract, and that's why it's no longer showing available in the MLS system. Just to bring it back to the false representation of TV shows and showing you how those buyers purchase houses, that is very unrealistic. And the reason being is because you are the one who's buying this house. You're buying it for your needs, your wants, what you like, your life, your situation. I am not the one buying the house. So I might like something completely different than you do. You're buying the house for you. So you want to make sure that you are the one responsible picking which houses are going to be contenders based upon the fact that they check a lot of your boxes off. But you're not holding that decision making just because it doesn't meet every single aspect of what you're looking for. And just to let you know, majority of the time, there is never gonna be a house that is gonna be absolutely perfect. There is gonna be something, and that's just part of the process. So making sure that you already have that expectation is really gonna help you be able to enjoy this process. All right, so after we set up the search in the MLS and we know exactly what we're looking for, the houses that are meeting your criteria are now showing and populating, and you're getting automated emails, you're getting all these things. After we have a good amount of houses that we know are strong contenders, that's when we start the house hunting process. So normally for my clients, depending on if they're in town or they're out of town or they're out of the country, we figure out what our house hunting schedule is going to look like. If I have clients that are relocating, majority of the time we pick a weekend that works for all of us, and then we pick the houses that we're going to go see. I have to map out every single property, request appointments for every single property, find out any important information about the properties before we go see them, and then we schedule them, and I send you the schedule of what it's going to look like. I don't waste any time when it comes to scheduling, because I think it's very important. If you're taking the time to come here to find a house, we're going to get that job done. So I really take it seriously when I'm scheduling for my clients. I also have had situations where my clients are in another country or they physically can't come here, and they are fine with potentially virtually buying a house. So I do a lot of virtual tours. So making sure that if that's something that's going to be a part of your process, making sure that you have a real estate agent who does videos and is able to convey what the property looks like, and also is truthful about, when they walk in and what do they smell or what do they see. Especially if they can't really get those things on video, because you can't get smell, or sometimes the video goes so quickly, sometimes you can't see certain things on the ceilings. So making sure that you have an agent who is experienced and knows what they're looking for, and then also is able to do those videos or photos for you, is very important. And finally, it is definitely possible to buy a house virtually. I bought my very first home virtually. Would I do it again if I absolutely had to? Yes, it is something that's possible, but it's definitely not recommended. If you can come in person to look at houses, I definitely would, because it's not just about the house that you're looking at. It's also about the neighborhood, the surrounding areas. When you are able to actually get a really good feel of the house, the community, the area that the home is located in, that really helps you to be able to make a good decision. So I definitely recommend, if you can come in person, do that. But if you have to buy virtually, that is definitely something that is possible. If you know anyone who is going to be a first-time home buyer, or they haven't bought a house in a while, please share these videos with them. I think it'll be super helpful. And I really appreciate you watching these videos. And I do have a playlist that is going to be specifically for this series in my YouTube, so you can go ahead and access that at any time. My contact information is going to be in the description bar, and you can find me on all platforms at Nicole Moore Real Estate. Bye!